Key number 8, the Unimpeachable Calendar. Key number 8 was researched and produced by 144,000teachers.org. For seminars, conferences, and enrollment, please contact us at 144,000teachers@gmail.com. For further studies, visit our website at 144,000teachers.org. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the Prophecy of Daniel, chapter 8, verse 14. Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. The 2,300-year span is the longest of all the allotted time periods of inspired prophecy. The Unimpeachable Calendar, Daniel chapter 8, verse 14, and the 2,300 days. It is the most complex of all in its involvement because it comprehends a series of subdivisions marked off by events whose synchronizing relationship cannot be disturbed without disturbing the whole divine scheme. The Unimpeachable Calendar and God's Great Celestial Clock. The boundaries and divisions of this mighty period are timed by God's great celestial clock of the spheres, which swing inerrantly through space, telling of the years, months, days, hours, and minutes with the undeviating precision of infinity. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the Prophecy of Daniel chapter 7 verse 25 of the 1260 years from 538 AD to 1798 AD. The terminal point of this great prophecy became the center of absorbing interest and reverent study back in the early decades of the 19th century. The close of the great 1260-year period, told off by the living God as the era of the little horn, came during the time of the French Revolution around 1789. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the end of the 2,300 years. The minds of earnest students of prophecy then turned simultaneously in different lands toward the approaching end of the 2,300-year prophecy of Daniel chapter 8 verse 14 at the time of God's long foretold hour of judgment, or the antitypical Day of Atonement. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the Mighty Movement of 1843-1844. A mighty movement sprang into being with hundreds of public heralds drawn from the various churches and tens of thousands of humble believers, all focusing their hopes and expectation within the years 1843 and 44 as the terminal point of this great span. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the correct view of the period. This prophetic period, the 2,300 days of years, has been and still is the main pillar of the Advent faith. It is therefore of the utmost importance that we have a correct view of the commencement and termination of this period. Taken from the Grace Abaddon Collection, Part 1, Introductory Statement, pages 1 to 3, excerpt. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the 2,300 days commencement in 457 BC. The 2,300 days commenced in 457 BC with a decree to rebuild Jerusalem from Artaxerxes under Ezra. It has been shown that Christ was crucified in AD 31 in the midst or the middle of the 70th week, or 490 days of years. The Unimpeachable Calendar and the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9 verse 24. Therefore the 70 weeks terminated in the autumn of AD 34, and the 2,300 days of years terminated in the autumn of 1844 with the Day of Atonement or cleansing of the sanctuary. For further studies on Daniel chapters 8 and 9, please visit our website at numbers 1317.org. The unimpeachable calendar and the 2300 terminal point of October 22, 1844. The writings of the Christian Jewish scholar Joseph Samuel C.F. Frey exerted a marked influence upon Snow and his associates in fixing upon October 22, 1844 as the precise 10th day of the 7th month fulfillment of the Atonement autumnal type. Taken from the Grace Amadon Collection, Part 2, page 13. The unimpeachable calendar and the date of October 22, 1844. The validity of the October 22nd as the true equivalent of the 10th day of the 7th month of the appointed Hebrew sacred year depends, point number 1, upon the correct determination of the true beginning of the biblical sacred year. Point number 2, upon locating the true 7th month in that year. Point number 3, upon the correct reckoning of the true 10th day of that 7th month. Point number 4, upon the basis of the Karaite Hebrew reckoning. Taken from the Grace Amadon Collection, Part 1, page 4. The unimpeachable calendar, the beginning of the biblical sacred year. Point number 1, the true beginning of the biblical sacred year depended on the ending of the latter rain, the first week of April. This is for a common year. The regular period of ripened barley, and the falling of one moon after the first week of April determined the Paschal feast and all other festivals. The unimpeachable calendar and the true biblical sacred year in 1844. Fact number 1, the true beginning of the biblical sacred year in 1844 started with the new moon horn crescent on April 19 or Abib 1. The full moon was May the 2nd on Abib 13, and the Passover was May the 3rd on Abib 14. Therefore, the biblical sacred year in 1844 was an embollismic year. The unimpeachable calendar, the true 7th month in 1844. Point number 2, the true 7th month in 1844 depended on the new moon or the new month of April 19 Gregorian reckoning. April, Gregorian reckoning, corresponding to Abib, or the first month of the biblical year in 1844. October, Gregorian reckoning, corresponding to the 7th month of the biblical year in 1844, which was an embollismic year. The unimpeachable calendar, the true 7th month in 1844. Fact number 2, the true 7th month in 1844 was on new moon on crescent, corresponding to October 13 Gregorian reckoning, with the Feast of Trumpets then being on October 13 Gregorian reckoning, or the first of the 7th month biblical reckoning. The unimpeachable calendar, the true 10th day of the 7th month. Point number 3, the true 10th day of the 7th month biblical calendar in October 1844 Gregorian reckoning depended on the new moon on crescent, which was on October 13 Gregorian reckoning, and the trumpets corresponding to October 13 Gregorian reckoning was the first of the 7th month. Fact number 3, the 10th day of the 7th month was the Day of Atonement, corresponding to October 22nd, 1844, Gregorian reckoning. The unimpeachable calendar, the Karaite Hebrew reckoning. Point number 4, the basis of the Karaite Hebrew reckoning depended on the month of barley harvest, corresponding to April Gregorian reckoning. The Passover can never be in March Gregorian reckoning, the latter rain still falling till the first week in April Gregorian reckoning. The Paschal moon limit, April 8 to May 6 Gregorian reckoning. Fact number 4 then, the new moon, new year in 1844 was April 19 Gregorian reckoning. The unimpeachable calendar, any sharp thing to change time. The little horn spoken of in Daniel chapter 7 verse 25, with the help of the enemy of souls, has changed time through the fixed calendar, and the whole world observes the Gregorian calendar today. The unimpeachable calendar and the fixed Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar is a fixed calendar made up of planetary days honored of in the Bible. Sun Day, Moon Day, Mars Day, Mercury Day, Jupiter Day, Venus Day, and Saturn Day. The biblical days and months are reckoned by numbers 1, 2, 3, or first, second, and third, etc. The unimpeachable calendar and the first century in the calendar. The Mosaic ceremony connected with the barley harvest, so vital in its control of the Hebrew year, did not long survive the first century of the Christian era because of the dispersion of the Jews. The unimpeachable calendar. The persecution brought a fixed calendar. The period of persecution which followed the fall of the Second Temple ultimately brought about a fixed calendar for the Jews, one that was based upon an entirely different rule of intercalation than the ancient barley harvest regulation, the vernal equinox. The unimpeachable calendar and the Karaites in the 8th century. About the 8th century AD, the Karaites arose to oppose the influence of the Rabbinites' fixed calendar and to restore the barley harvest schedule as the important index to regulate the leap year. This controversy over the Hebrew calendar raged for several centuries. The unimpeachable calendar. The Karaites lose ground. It really represented a rivalry between Palestine and Babylon for the prerogative of keeping time for the Jewish nation. Though the Karaites were biblically correct, in the end, the Babylonian Jews gained control of the calendar and Karaism dwindled. The unimpeachable calendar. The compromising modern Karaites. Since 1780, the Karaites have been slowly compromising with the Rabbinites on this question and today follow a fixed calendar. Taken from the Grace Hamadan collection, Crucifixion Date, Part 5, page 30. The unimpeachable calendar. Babylon is fallen, is fallen. The unimpeachable biblical calendar, based on the lunisolar barley harvest reckoning, now restored, will cause the fall of Babylon. Why and how? See key number 9 for the answers to these important questions.